Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 47. We have been hearing yesterday how we get the intelligence because we are the Purañjana, the living entity in the body, and we want to enjoy with the body. So then the intelligence that we get helps us to seek the enjoyment in the city of 9 gates through our various senses. Because our desire is to enjoy, our intelligence is also that way, always seeking how to get more and more enjoyment. So reading on, Khadyo Tavir Mukhi Cha Prag.
Khadyo Tavir Mukhi Cha Prag.
Dvara Ekatra Nirmite.
Dvara Ekatra Nirmite.
Vibrajitam Janapadam.
Vibrajitam Janapadam.
Yati Tavyam Dyumad Sakha.
Yati Tavyam Dyumad Sakha.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The 2 gates named Khadyota and Avirmukhi were situated facing the eastern side, but they were constructed in one place. Through those 2 gates, the king used to go to the city of Vibrajita, accompanied by a friend whose name was Dyuman. The 2 names, Khadyota and Avirmukhi, means glowworm and torchlight. This indicates that of the 2 eyes, the left eye is less powerful in its ability to see. Although both eyes, so because we were hearing yesterday the 9 gates, the 2 eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and his genitals, and how the front-facing senses are eastward, then the senses, the ears are on north and south, northern and southern gates. They're called northern and southern gates. The eastern gates are the eyes, nostril, front-facing, mouth. And then the anus and genitals are called western-facing. So now it's being said for the eyes. The king or the living entity uses these 2 gates to see things properly, but he cannot see unless accompanied by a friend whose name is Dyuman. This friend is the sun. Although the 2 eyes are situated in one place, they have no power to see without the sunlight. Vibrajitam Janapadam. If one wants to see something very clearly, Vibrajitam, he must see it with 2 eyes and the assistance of his friend, the sunlight. It's true, no? If there's no sunlight, we won't be able to see. Well, now we will say, oh, I can see because there's street lights and there is a light coming from our various gadgets. But if nothing is there, if there's no sun, these gadgets and street lights wouldn't be there also possible. So even though we may have eyes, we can't see without the sun. Within this body, everyone is a king because he uses his different gates according to his own will. Although he is very much proud of his power to see or hear, he is nonetheless dependent on the assistance of nature. Yeah, we think we are the owners of the body. So we use our body the way we think is right, the way we think we can get maximum enjoyment. But of course, Prabhupada is pointing out the important thing that we can use the senses by the facility of the material nature. Without the facility of material nature, we won't be able to use them. Just as we heard, we have the eyes, but without the sunlight, we cannot see. Nalini Nalini Chaprag.
Nalini Cha Prag.
Vara Ekatra Nirmite.
Vara Ekatra Nirmite.
Avadhuta Sakastabhyam.
Avadhuta Sakastabhyam.
Vishayam Yati Saurabham.
Vichayam Yati Saurabham.
Similarly, in the east, there were two sets of gates named Nalini and Nalini, and these were also constructed in one place. Through these gates, the king, accompanied by a friend named Avadhu, used to go to the city of Saurabh. The two gates named Nalini and Nalini are the two nostrils. The living entity enjoys these two gates with the help of different avadhutas or airs, which constitute the breathing process. Through these gates, the living entity goes to the town of Saurabh or aroma. In other words, the nostrils, with the help of their friend, the air, enjoy various aromas in the material world. Nalini and Nalini are the pipes of the nostrils through which one inhales and exhales, enjoying the aroma of sense pleasure. Mukhya nama purastadvas.
Yanama Purushtad Vaha.
Tayapana bahudano.
Ayapana Bahudana.
Vishayo yati purarat.
Vishayo Yati Purarad.
Rasagya vipananvita.
Visakya Vipana Vita.
So we heard about the eyes, that we are enjoying whatever we want to see. Then we are enjoying the nostrils. We want nice fragrances. The fifth gate, situated on the eastern side, was named Mukhya, or the chief. Through this gate, accompanied by his friends named Rasakya and Vipana, he used to visit two places named Bahudan and Apana. The mouth is here described as the chief, or the most important gate. The mouth is very important entrance because one has two functions to conduct with the mouth. One function is eating and other is speaking. Eating is done with the friend prasagya, the tongue, which can taste so many different types of food. The tongue is also used for speaking, and it can speak of either material sense enjoyment or Vedic knowledge. Of course, here material sense enjoyment is stressed, therefore the word prasagya is used. So two eyes, then the nostrils, and then the mouth. With the mouth, we are tasting all varieties of delicious food stuff, and then also to speak. Pitrahur Nripa Purya Dwash.
Pitrahu Nita Purya Dvar.
Dakshinena Puranjana.
Shimina Puranjana.
Rashtram Dakshina Panchalam.
Dakshina Panchalam.
Yati Shrutta Dharanvita.
Yati Shuttadhara Vitra.
The southern gate of the city was known as Pitrahu, and through that gate, King Puranjana used to visit the city named Dakshina Panchal, accompanied by his friend Shuttadha. The right ear is used for karma kandiya, operative activities. As long as one is attached to the enjoyment of material resources, he hears from the right ear and uses the five senses to elevate himself to the higher planetary systems like Pitralok. Consequently, the right ear is described here as the Pitrahu gate. So doing the rituals to go and enjoy in the planet of the ancestors, Pitralok. Although Pitralok is actually a hellish planet, It's below if we see the placement of the universes, it's below the Earth planet. But the ancestors lived there for enjoyment, and many people want to go there after death. So, Devahur Nama Puryadva.
Devahu Nama Purya Dvar.
Uttarena Puranjana.
Uttarena Puranjana.
Rashtram Uttara Panchalam
Rashtam Tara Panchalam
Yati Shuddha Dharanvita.
Yati Shrutta Dharamvita.
On the northern side was the gate named Devapur. Through that gate, King Purañjana used to go with his friend Shuddhadhar to the place known as Uttara Panchal. The two ears are situated on the northern side and the southern side. The ear on the southern side is very strong and is always anxious to hear about sense enjoyment. The ear on the northern side, however, is used for taking initiation from the spiritual master and for gaining promotion to the spiritual sky. The right ear, or the ear on the southern side, is called Pitrahu, which indicates that it is used for attaining the higher planetary systems known as Pitralok. But the left ear, which is known as Devahu, is utilized for hearing about even higher planetary systems, such as Maharlok, Tapolok, and Brahmalok, or yet even higher planets situated in the spiritual universe where one becomes more inclined to be permanently situated. So the right ear and the left ear. So the right ear is for here Prabhupada is mentioning that the right ear is the ear in which the spiritual master chants the mantra into the ear, right? The ear on the northern and southern. The ear on the southern side and the ear on the northern side is used for taking initiation. So the right ear is on the southern side and the left ear. So okay, the right ear is on the southern, which goes to the Pitralok. But for the left ear gets the initiation from the spiritual master and gaining promotion to the spiritual sky. That one can hear about transcendental matters through the left ear. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pitra vrata bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mat yajino pima. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. So Krishna here clearly tells us what our destination will be. Who we worship, we will go there. You know, it's not that you worship anyone and the destination is one. Like some people will say, oh, it doesn't matter, everything is one, all roads lead to one. But no, all roads don't lead to one. You know, if you're taking the road to America, we'll reach America. If you're taking the road to Australia, we're going to reach Australia. You know, it depends which ticket we are buying. We are buying a ticket to America, we are going to sit in a plane and reach America. So Krishna is saying, whoever you worship, that's where you're going to reach. You worship the Devas, you're going to reach the planet of the Devas. You're going to worship the Pitra, then we will reach the planet of the Pitra. If we worship ghosts, we are going to take birth among them. And Krishna says, those who worship me will come to the spiritual world, will live with me, he says. So if we want to go to the spiritual world where there is no anxiety, there's a permanent place of happiness, where everyone lives in the spiritual body, not material. The spiritual world is not material. It is Satchit Ananda. Satchidananda. So one who's interested in being happy on this planet, as well as after death, generally wants to be elevated to the Pitralokas. Such a person can use the right ear for hearing Vedic instructions. However, one who is interested in going to Tapalok, Brahmalok, and Vaikuntha planets or Krishnalok may take initiation from the spiritual master in order to be elevated to such lokas. So, this is the different destinations that one goes to, what one worships. And so depending on our desire, what do we desire? Somehow or the other, let's try to have the desire to go back home, back to Godhead. Just somehow or the other. We have so many desires. Let us also try to cultivate one desire. Let us go back home, back to Godhead. Let us revive our loving relationship with Krishna. Asuri nama paschadvas.
Surinama Paschadvas
Taya yati Puranjana.
Taya Yati Puranjana
Ramakam nama Vishayam.
Ramakam Nama Vishayam
Durmadena Samanvita.
Bhumadena Samanvita.
On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Purañjana used to go to the city of Brahma, accompanied by his friend Durmata. The gate on the western side of the city was known as Asuri because it was especially meant for the Asuras. The word Asur refers to those who are interested in sense gratification, specifically in sex life, to which they are overly attracted. Thus, Puranjana, the living entity, enjoys himself to his greatest satisfaction by means of the genitals. Consequently, he used to go to the place known as Gramaka. Material sense gratification is also called Gramya, and a place where sex life is indulged in to a great extent is called Gramaka. When going to Gramaka, Puranjana used to be accompanied by his friend Durmada. The word Vishaya refers to the four bodily necessities of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The word Durmadena may be analyzed in this way. Dur means dushta or sinful, and mada means madness. Every living entity who is in contact with material nature is called mada or mad. We have left the spiritual world. We have forgotten we are spirit souls. And here we are thinking we are the body. And we are doing all actions, all our words, all our thoughts are all consumed on the basis of the body. Whereas actually we are spirit souls. We have nothing to do with the body. And so that's why it's called that we have become mad. When we lose our mind, then we don't know what we are talking. So this is our situation now. It is said, so Prema Vivarta is saying this, Pishachi paile yena matti chana haya, maya grasta jivera haya, se bhava uddaya. When a person is haunted, he becomes practically insane. When one is in an insane condition, he speaks all kinds of nonsense. Thus, to become engaged in sense gratification, one has to accept a friend who is durmada or badly affected by the material disease. So this is our position. We are mad after sense gratification. The words Asuri Nama Paschadva are significant in another sense. The sunrise is first visible from the eastern side, the Bay of Bengal, and gradually it progresses toward the west. It is practically experienced that people in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has certified, Paschimera Loka Saba Muda Anachar, Chaitanya Leela Adi, Caitaniya Caritamita Adi Leela, chapter 10, text 89. The more one goes to the western side, the more he will find people disinterested in spiritual life. He will find them behaving against the Vedic standards. Because of this, people living in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. In this Bhagavatam, it is confirmed, Asuri Nama Paschadvam. In other words, the population on the western side is interested in an Asuric civilization, that is, a materialistic way of life. Lord Chaitanya consequently wanted this Krishna consciousness movement to be preached on the western side of the world. so that people addicted to sense gratification might be benefited by his teachings. Lord Chaitanya said that his name will be sung in every town and village. The holy name will be chanted. And we can see practically it's happening now. There's small places also in the Western world, and people are chanting Hare Krishna there. And even now it's more, everything has become Western. We are all following the Western education. It's become like kind of, you know, but yet the devotees are trying to bring Krishna consciousness in the society. They get the credit, the devotees. Nirjite nama paschat vas.
Vijite nama paschadva
Taya yati Purañjana.
taya yati Purañjana
Vaishasam nama vishaya.
Vishesam nama Vishayam
Lubdha kena samanvita.
Vidyatena Samanvita.
Before we proceed, of course, the greatest credit goes to Srila Prabhupada because he spread the Krishna consciousness movement worldwide. Worldwide he spread. Another gate on the western side was known as Nirti. Purañjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vaishas, accompanied by his friend Lubdhaka. This is a reference to the rectum. The rectum is supposed to be situated on the western side of the eyes, nose, and ears. This gate is especially meant for death. When an ordinary living entity abandons his present body, he passes through the rectum. It is therefore painful. When one is called by nature to evacuate, one also experiences pain. The friend of the living entity who accompanies him through this gate is named Lubdhaka, which means greed. Due to our greed, we eat unnecessarily, and such gluttony causes pain at the time of evacuation. The conclusion is that the living entity feels well if he evacuates properly. This gate is known as Nritti, or the painful gate. So, yeah. So the soul said the ordinary living entity abandons his present body, he passes through the rectum. So because the soul can leave the body through any one of the 9 gates. And it's mentioned that it's very painful. Andhav amisham poranam.
Amisham Puranam
Nirvakteshas kritavrubhau.
Vishesvita Bhari
Akshan batam adhikpatis.
Vatam Adhipate
Kavyam yadi karoti cha.
Yam Yati Karoti Cha.
Of the many inhabitants of the city, there are 2 persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Purañjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there and perform various activities. This is a reference to the arms and legs of the living entity. The 2 legs do not speak and they are blind. If a person simply trusts his legs to take him walking, he's likely to fall into a pole or bump into something. Thus, led by the blind legs, one's life may be placed in jeopardy. Of the senses that are working, the hands and legs are very important, but they have no eyes to see. This means that in the hands and legs, there are no holes. In the head, there are many holes, two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, and one mouth. But lower down in the arms and legs, there are no holes. Consequently, the arms and legs have been described as andha, blind. Although the living entity has many holes in his body, he nonetheless has to work with his hands and arms. Although the living entity is the master of many other senses, when he has to go somewhere to do something or touch something, he has to use his blind legs and hands. So the hands and legs are called blind because there are no holes there. So we do use our arms and legs, no, for everything. Sayarhi antapuragato
Yarhi Antapuragato
vishuchina samanvita
Vishuchuna Samandita
moham prasadam harsham va
Maham Prasadam Harshamba
yati jayat majodbhavam.
Yapi Jayat Madhubhavam.
Sometimes he used to go to his private home with one of his chief servants, the mind, who was named Vishuchina. At that time, illusion, satisfaction, and happiness used to be produced from his wife and children. According to the Vedic conclusion, one's self is situated within the heart. As stated in Vedic language, Hridhi Ayam Atma Pratishtita. The self is situated within the heart. The self is situated, so our soul is in the heart. In the material condition, however, the spirit soul is covered by the material qualities, namely goodness, passion, and darkness. And within the heart, these three qualities react. For instance, when one is in goodness, he feels happiness. When one is in passion, he feels satisfaction through material enjoyment. And when one is in darkness, he feels bewilderment. All these activities are of the mind and they function on the platform of thinking, feeling, and willing. So, goodness, the mode of goodness, one feels happy, passion, satisfaction, like very much desire to enjoy in passion. And darkness, there is a lot of confusion what to do, what not to do. So, the function of the mind is thinking, feeling, and willing. We think something, then we feel, how will it be when I do this? Then when we start feeling, then we actually willing to do it, because the feeling comes in. That, I will feel like this. So when the living entity is encircled by wife, children, and home, he acts on the mental plane. Sometimes he's very happy, sometimes he's very much satisfied, sometimes he's not satisfied, and sometimes he's bewildered. Bewilderment is called moha, illusion. Illusion by society, friendship, and love. The living entity thinks that his so called society, friendship, and love, nationality, community, etc., will give him protection. He does not know that after death he will be thrown into the hands of a very strong material nature that will force him to accept a certain type of body according to his present work. So, how we act now, we are creating our future body. With our mind, with our subtle body, we are creating our next gross body. So we feel secure, with our whatever securities that we may have. Here, Prabhupada is mentioning society, friendship, love, nationality, community. So we feel, good. But death will come one day for each and every one of us, and we will be forced to leave the present comfortable situation. And we will be forced to accept a body, and this body may not even be a human body. Thus, the living entity's feeling of security in this life, in the midst of society, friendship, wife, and friendship, is nothing but illusion. So, for the wife, it's the husband, for the husband, it's the wife. You know? All living entities engaged in various material bodies are illusioned by the present activities of material enjoyment. They forget their real business, which is to go back home, back to Godhead. It's true, no? We make up so many things. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to go here, I have to. But the main thing that is to get out of this material world, that we forget to do. Everyone who is not in Krishna consciousness must be considered an illusion. One's so-called feelings of happiness and satisfaction resulting from material things are also illusions. Factually, neither society, friendship, love, or anything else can save one from the onslaught of the external energy, which is symptomized by birth, death, old age, and disease. So, this is the law of the material world: birth, death, old age, and disease. No matter how secure we are in our society, friendship, and love, you know, old age is going to come, or disease will come, death will come. To get even one living entity out of the illusory condition is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daivihi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Therefore, unless one surrenders completely at the lotus feet of Krishna, he cannot get out of the entanglement of the three modes of material nature. So Krishna is telling us that by our own self, we cannot get out of this material world. If at all we want liberation, we want to go back home, back to Godhead, then we need to surrender to Krishna. And Krishna is saying once one surrenders to him, then he makes the arrangement. Krishna makes the arrangement to get us out of the material world. Any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Anyone
so
wanted
many.
to share? Hey?
Yeah,
Sorry?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So yeah, so many times it's been, reminded to us not to use our mind and chant more rather.
Yeah. Or the way to use the mind, because mind will have to be used. So use the mind to chant, to think of Krishna and chant. Yeah.
Yeah. So it reminds me what we were, hearing yesterday, how Krishna told Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita that don't use your mind, use the spiritual eyes that I have given you.
Ah, yes.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, just, I don't know why, but that really, keeps reminding us that we have to use our spiritual knowledge, our spiritual eyes, chant more, read more, hear more, and not use our mind, not get distracted. So much
Yeah.
distraction.
So true, no?
Yeah.
It's so true. Mind, it's a whole other thing to deal with. Then you have to constantly remind, okay, chant, hear, constant practice and detachment. Okay.
So really, we have to be thankful to Srila Prabhupada that he gave us this. Without this, we would have been, I don't know what this world would be like, I'm thankful to all the devotees who are doing that collective chanting. it's a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind appreciation for Srila Prabhupada and the devotees. It's true, no?
Yes, of
It's
course.
true, as we just heard
I know.
Prabhupada is saying that Lord Chaitanya wanted this knowledge to go to the western side. And Srila Prabhupada really took great efforts. He single-handedly went alone to America and he spread this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. You know, it was very difficult for him initially. So really, and his devotees also, they're doing so good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So reading on. Evam karmasu sakta
Evam karmasu samsakta
kamatma vanchito buddha
kamatma vanchito buddha
mahishi yad iheta
mahishi yadyat iheta
tatta evanavavartata.
tattat evanvavartata.
Being thus entangled in different types of mental concoction and engaged in fruitive activities, King Purañjana came completely under the control of material intelligence and was thus cheated. Indeed, he used to fill all the desires of his wife, the queen. When a living entity is in such bewilderment that he is under the control of his wife or material intelligence, he has to satisfy the intelligence of his so called wife and act exactly according to her dictates. Various Shastras advise that for material convenience, one should keep his wife always satisfied by giving her ornaments and by following her instructions. In this way, there will be no trouble in family life. Therefore, for one's own social benefit, one is advised to keep his wife satisfied. In this way, when one becomes the servant of his wife, he must act according to the desires of his wife. Thus, one becomes more and more entangled. So maybe the wives want to print out till this part. Therefore, for one owns like all of the above and then show to the husbands. Just kidding. Anyway, in Bengal, it is said that if one becomes an obedient servant of his wife, he loses all reputation. However, the difficulty is that unless one becomes a most obedient servant of his wife, family life becomes disturbed. In the Western countries, this disturbance gives rise to the divorce law, and in Eastern countries like India, there is separation. Now, this disturbance is confirmed by the new introduction of the divorce law in India. Within the heart, the mind is acting, thinking, feeling, and willing, and falling under the control of one's wife is the same as falling under the control of material intelligence. Thus, one begets children by his wife and becomes entangled in so many activities under the control of mental concoctions. So, for the wife, it's the husband, and the husband is the wife. Both have to cooperate and coordinate, listen to each other. Kvachit pibantyam pibati
Kvachit pibantyam pibati
madiram madavevala
madhira madavevala
ashnantyam kvachit ashnati
ashnantyam kvachit ashnati
jakshatyam sahajakshati.
jakshatyam sahajakshati
Kvachit gayati gayantyam
kvachit davati davantyam
rudatyam rudati kvachit.
rudatyam rudati kvachit
Kvachit dashantyam hasati
kvachit dashantyam hasati
jalpantyam anujalpati.
Jalpantyam anujalpati.
क्वचिद् धावति धावन्त्याम्
Kvachit bhavati dhavantyam.
तिष्ठन्त्याम् अनुतिष्ठति
Tishtantyam anutistati.
अनुशेते शयानायाम्
Anushete shayanaya.
अन्वास्ते क्वचिद् आसितिम्
Anvaste kvachit ashatim.
क्वचित् शृणोति शृण्वन्त्याम्
Kvachit shrunoti shranvantyam.
पश्यन्त्याम् अनुपश्यति
Pashyantyam anupashyati.
क्वचित् जिघ्रति जिघ्रन्त्याम्
Kvachit jigranti jigrantyam.
स्पर्शयन्त्याम् स्पर्शति क्वचित्
Prashantyam prashati kvachit.
क्वचिच्च शोचित् शोचतिम् जायाम्
Kvachitcha shochatim jayam.
अनुशोचति दीनवत्
Anushojati dinavat.
अनुहृष्यति हृष्यन्त्याम्
Anushyati dishyantam.
मुदिताम् अनुमोदते
Mudditam anumodate.
When the queen drank liquor, King Purañjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her. And when she chewed, King Purañjana used to chew along with her. When the queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. And when the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. And when the queen walked, the king walked behind her. When the queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. And when the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit. And when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear the same thing. When the queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would follow her to smell the same thing. When the queen touched something, the king would also touch it. And when the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, the king also felt satisfaction. The mind is the place where the self is situated, and the mind is conducted by the intelligence. The living entity situated within the heart follows the intelligence. The intelligence is herein depicted as the queen, and the soul, under mental control, follows the material intelligence, just as the king follows his wife. The conclusion is that material intelligence is the cause of bondage for the living entity. The point is that one has to take to spiritual intelligence to come out of this entanglement. So this intelligence comes from the soul. And then the intelligence is higher than the mind, and the mind is higher than the senses. But what has happened is right now our intelligence is become material. Real intelligence means spiritual intelligence. But right now our intelligence has become material. And so we are just listening to our mind. Whatever the mind says, we think this is how I'm going to enjoy. We feel this is what I'm going to enjoy. And then we are wanting to enjoy in this way, thinking, feeling, and willing. So the point is we have to change or purify, rather. We have to purify our intelligence. It's become material. We have to purify it. And the way we can purify the intelligence is by hearing from the scriptures, hearing from the Shastras, and chanting the holy name. In the life of Maharaj Ambarish, we find that the great Maharaj first engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. In this way, his intelligence became purified. Maharaj Ambarish also used his other senses in the service of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity in the temple nicely decorated with flowers. He engaged his sense of smell by smelling the flowers, and he engaged his legs by walking to the temple. His hands were engaged in cleansing the temple, and his ears were engaged in hearing about Krishna. His tongue was engaged in two ways, in speaking about Krishna and in tasting prasad offered to the deity. Materialistic persons who are under the full control of material intelligence cannot perform all these activities. Thus, consciously or unconsciously, they become entangled by the dictations of material intelligence. This fact is summarized in the following verse. So, to purify the intelligence of here, Prabhupada is giving us the example of Maharaj Ambarish, how first he engaged his mind in thinking of Krishna. And because his mind was controlled, then he engaged all the senses also in the service of Krishna. Eyes to see the deity, then the smell, his sense of smells, smelling the flowers which were offered to the deity, legs and going to the temple, hands, he would clean the temple. With his ears, he was always hearing about Krishna Katha. And by his tongue, he's always chanting the holy name, he's tasting Krishna Prasad. So, but because his intelligence was spiritual, so what can we do? Hear and chant, hear and chant, hear and chant, so that we can also be able to come to this point. And then, of course, we can, to whatever degree we can, use this. We see the deity photos or go to the temple or offer something to the Lord, using the senses in the service of Krishna. And Krishna says, Man manavava mad bhakta. Krishna is saying, always think of me. So how we can always think of Krishna? Chant the holy name. By chanting the holy name, we will be always able to think of Krishna. Any comments or anyone wanted to add anything? This is, I just realized this is the last text of this verse, but it's a bit long. So what do you all want to do? You all want to start it and finish it on time as we do, or not start it, or start it and like leave it as much as we can read and we continue tomorrow?
Up to you.
Okay, so
I think
let's
we
see.
Yeah.
We can try to finish it.
Yeah.
Okay. Vipralabdo maheshyevam
Vipralabdo maheshyevam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchita
nechan anukaroti agya
nechan anukaroti agya
klevyat krida mrigo yatha.
levyat krida mrigo yatha.
In this way, King Purañjana was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. Even against that poor, foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its master. The word vipralabdha is very significant in this verse. Vi means specifically and pralabdha means obtained. Just to satisfy his desires, the king got the queen, and thus he became cheated by material existence. Although he was not willing to do so, he remained a pet animal under the control of material intelligence. Because the king is the Purañjana. the living entity, and the queen is the intelligence. So, because of our desires, we get the material intelligence. And with this material intelligence, we are just entangled in this world of birth and death. All the time, we are thinking, how let me satisfy this desire, let me satisfy that desire. Just as a pet monkey dances according to the desires of its master, the king danced according to the desires of the queen. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 2, it is said, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukte. If one associates with a saintly person, a devotee, one's path of liberation becomes clear. But if one associates with a woman or with a person who's too much addicted to a woman, his path of bondage becomes completely clear. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukte. So association with the devotees opens the door to liberation. Association with the devotees. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kahe. Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hai. Even a moment's association with a devotee, Sarva Siddhi Hai, gives us complete perfection, gives us liberation. On the whole, for spiritual advancement, one must give up the company of women. This is what is meant by the order of sannyas, the renounced order. Before taking sannyas or completely renouncing the material world, one has to practice avoiding illicit sex. Sex life, licit or illicit, is practically the same, but through illicit sex, one becomes more and more captivated. By regulating one's sex life, there is a chance that one may eventually be able to renounce sex or renounce the association of women. If this can be done, advancement in spiritual life becomes very easily. So for the man, it's the woman, and for the woman, it's the man. How one becomes captivated by the association of one's dear wife is explained in this chapter by Narad Muni. Attraction for one's wife means attraction for the material qualities. One who is attracted by the material quality of darkness is in the lowest stage of life, whereas one who is attracted by the material quality of goodness is in a better position. Sometimes we see that when a person is on the platform of material goodness, he is attracted more or less by the cultivation of knowledge. This is, of course, a better position, for knowledge gives one the preference to accept devotional service. Unless one comes to the platform of knowledge, the Brahmabhuta stage, one cannot advance in devotional service. So, coming to the point of knowledge, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18:54, Brahmabhuta prasanatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So, coming to the point of Brahman, understanding, oh, I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul, I'm part and parcel of Krishna. I need to engage in Krishna's service. When we come to this platform, Brahma Bhuta platform, then we can engage in pure devotional service. So, pure devotional service begins from the point of liberation. Liberation is the beginning of real life because it's on the platform of the soul, not the body. One who is, the platform of knowledge is advantageous because it is a means by which one may come to the stage of devotional service. However, if one takes to devotional service directly, knowledge is revealed without separate endeavor. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahaitukam. Devotional service automatically reveals actual knowledge of our material existence. One who is sufficiently intelligent immediately attains the stage of renunciation of so-called society, family, and love, as well as other things. As long as we are attached to society, family, and love of the material world, there is no question of knowledge, nor is there a question of devotional service. By directly taking to devotional service, however, one becomes filled with knowledge and renunciation. In this way, one's life becomes successful. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Descriptions of the Characteristics of King Purañjana. We've completed it almost in time. So, devotional service, taking up the path of devotional service. What happens when we engage in devotional service? We get causeless knowledge and renunciation from the world automatically. When one engages in devotional service, one gets the transcendental knowledge that, oh, I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul. And he gets detachment from the material world. So devotional service begins by hearing from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, hearing from the devotees, and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we'll stop here for today. Did you want to add anything? Any realization? Anything to share? Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you so much for listening in and joining in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai.